If you're like most HVAC contractors, you know exactly how messy all the administrative tasks can get. Late payroll, missing paperwork, just those compliance headaches, and they always seem to come up at the absolute worst time for you. So in today's session, we're going to cover how to overcome all of that chaos. We're going to look at the systems and the strategies that can simplify payroll, HR, compliance, so your business runs smoother, faster, and with fewer surprises. Before we get into that today, I'd like to just share a little bit about Breezy for anybody that is new to the show. So here's what we're trying to accomplish at Breezy. We are a purpose-built HVAC field management software that gives you all the tools you need to run your business all in one place, right? We focus on helping HVAC owners create membership programs that run practically. And we have powerful tools like automated billing and renewals, service reminders that keep customers coming back over and over, and job reports that build trust and loyalty with your customers and internally with your employees. So in the same way that trade brings order to payroll and compliance, Breezy brings that same simplicity to the field. Everything you need to run your business, nothing you don't, none of that extra fluff that costs you an arm and a leg with all the other guys. So I want to give you a little bit of understanding of how Breezy users are growing. So our users saw a median year-over-year growth of 19%, which nearly doubles the industry average of 8 to 10. And I'm going to introduce you to today's guest of honor. This is Anna Berger. She is incredible, and I'm super excited to have her today. Anna is the co-founder and CEO of Trade, which is a modern back office platform built specifically for contractors and service businesses. So Trade is transforming how companies like yours handle payroll, HR, and compliance, kind of like I said a little bit earlier. And it's just really simplifying what used to take days and a lot of manual processes and a lot of administrative lift, and just dialing that down to minutes, right? So I know what you might be thinking. Are they gonna, are they this newcomer to the industry and they're just gonna disappear in a couple months or a couple years? Well, the answer is no, because they're backed by some incredible funding. Y Combinator, Suffolk Technologies, and Bloomberg Beta. And that just powerful backing is already helping HVAC companies across the country run more efficiently, stay compliant, and really introducing, some very powerful tech to the trade. So they're going to be around for a long time. And today she's going to teach us how to fix fragmented systems. She's going to walk us through a live demo of the Trade platform. And she's going to open up a Q&A with the two of us so you can get your answers that you need for your business. We're also going to have a QR code up throughout today's presentation. So if your back office could use some help, or you just want to kind of see the platform and take it for a little test drive, scan that QR code on your screen to schedule a free demo with her team. And let's save you some time and help you grow. So without further ado, please help me welcome Anna to the show. Anna, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We're very pleased. So tell us a little bit about Trade. And I know, you grew up in the industry, and kind of what challenges you've experienced with your family business and how you're trying to solve them here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And should I go ahead and share my screen to kind of guide the
Sure.
conversation? Perfect. Amazing. Let me know when you guys can see this. Okay. All set?
All set.
Amazing. So it's a pleasure to meet everybody. My name is Anna Berger, and I'm the founder and CEO of Trade. As CJ was just alluding to, I was born into a construction family here in New York. And so I've really grown up around the trades. It's a space I'm very, very passionate about. And when I kind of started building this platform, really it was for my dad. And, several years later, I'm very fortunate that it's relevant to a ton of people and businesses, especially like the HVAC businesses on this call. So I'll kind of run it back to how Trade came to be. So 4 years ago, I was coming off of the heels of my first startup, and my dad kind of looked at me and was just like, my back office is overwhelming. I could really use some help. And so with that, I dove in, and I was checking time cards and shift notes and putting people on the schedule, running payroll, processing reports, moving everything into payroll journals and into accounting, and found myself wanting to just, run into a wall. I felt like the systems that existed for contractors made the work so much harder. And so this really, caused me to just start asking the hard question of like, why isn't this better for us, right? There are so many HVAC and construction businesses in the US. Like, why isn't there a designated software to manage the back office? So that was really the spark that started it all. And so, as you all know here, the back office is really, really complicated. It's, mostly run down by key labor and project data being spread across old and siloed systems, right? You're not able to get a true picture of how the business is doing because data is all over the place. And to make it worse, you're managing the business on systems that were built 20 or 30 years ago. And so teams are not only, struggling to just do their job, but they're also struggling to make sure the site is live, right? I hear all the time, like, our sites go down all the time. It's always crashing. You can't run a business if your software is unstable. And so what all of this leads to is extra vulnerability for contractors and HVAC owners, right? There is liability left and right that shouldn't be, whether that's time shaving through time cards and time reporting, or expired safety certifications, missed and late payments, or not being prepared for an audit when it hits. So enter Trade, right? This is an all-in-one back office operating system designed for HVAC. We specialize in payroll, HR, and compliance, but really the whole breadth of the software is quite wide. We do everything from HR, employee onboarding, offboarding, terminating, rehiring, all the way through to expense management, time tracking, field management, and of course, the real-time job costing. I think the biggest thing I wanted to crack was the ability to say, how am I actually doing on this project? Am I going to make money? Am I losing money? Can I course correct? Is there still time to save it? Right? So Trade gives you that real-time look of how you're actually doing and how you can turn things around. So the old way may look like something you're familiar with, right? 6 to 8 different systems in the back office, all Frankenstein together to make it make sense for the HVAC and construction back office. You have people using a different system for HR, a different system for time tracking, a different system for payroll, which is also different from expense management. And then, of course, scheduling and dispatch and accounting oftentimes live in completely different systems. That is completely inefficient. With Trade, we do all of those core actions on a single platform, hence our all-in-one back office operating system. So as you can see from these visuals here, there are 3 different platforms to Trade. The first is the back office operating system designed to be desktop first. Then you have a foreman or a manager type of platform, which is really designed to be like iPad or tablet forward. This is for people out in the field entering key project information. And then last but not least is the mobile app. And this is designed for every employee of the company, whether that's in the field or in the back office, for people to see their schedules, see their pay stubs, and access their key tax documents. So hopefully these animations work. Let's see, maybe I have to press play. Okay, cool. So let me walk you through briefly the people, the HR, and the onboarding portion of Trade. So when you onboard a worker, all we need are very streamlined key data points. We need first name, last name, email, phone number, and what this person's going to be making, right? Are you classifying them as W-2 or 1099? We handle both, and how much they should make any given day. From there, the worker gets a link to download Trade. They process a digital I-9, they go through tax and bank account verification, and they get themselves set up on the Trade Worker app. From here, they have access to their schedules, their pay stubs, and their taxes, right? So we're doing total employee verification on the back end, storing digital I-9s into the system. So if and when you're audited, you have the paper trail and there's no kind of holes in that process. The last piece here, really critical, is safety and expiration tracking. So workers can upload all types of licenses and cards to their Trade app, which our system recognizes those expiration dates and will surface those up to the back office to not expose the business to any type of vulnerability in that way. Cool. So next up is Trade for Managers, and this is that iPad or tablet flow. So as you can see, managers have the ability to onboard people right on site, if that's an important use case for you all, to clock in workers, review hours, assign task codes or special rates to certain projects, create job coded activities, right? So maybe you performed this and it has a different rate than this. You can create those shift notes at the end of the day. You can upload progress pictures, you can review, edit, and submit daily forms, and of course, keep track of those certification expirations. Perfect. And you can see here off to the side the different ways in which the trade platform can be interacted with. So whether it's adding in different coding, this can be customized based on your specific business need. And then last step here, I've alluded to this already, but this is a sneak peek at Trade for Techs. So this is really like the platform that all employees of the company would have access to. The clock in and clock out flows are optional depending on what kind of work this employee is doing. Employee also has access to see their year-to-date earnings, to access those key tax documents, as well as submitting PTO and sick day requests to hit to the back office. And then last but not least is expense reimbursement with receipt upload. So teams in the field can send pictures of receipts, upload it to the back office, and then that's added to their next paycheck as a post-tax reimbursement. So there's no need for that additional cut check, right? Checks are expensive. They're $1.50 a piece, right? And so for every receipt that you're reimbursing, you're spending money on that paper check when it's unnecessary. So with trade, reimbursements are rolled up into the weekly payrolls. Great. So this is the payroll view here. As you can see along the top, you'll be able to kind of gather some real-time week-over-week insights, how your different payrolls have evolved, whether you have a team that stays pretty flat week over week, or if you have a high volume, high turnover workforce, you would see that reflected in the graph. On trade, you're exposed to unlimited weekly, bi-weekly, and off-cycle payroll runs. Off cycles are pretty important for any type of layoff or a bonus check or maybe a void or a correction. Unlike other payroll platforms, we do not nickel and dime for the amount of payroll runs included any given week. So teams can feel kind of comforted by the fact that you can do whatever you need to get the job done. We will run hourly and salary payrolls in the same cycle, which is atypical, but something that makes perfect sense for kind of this HVAC and construction space. And we also support different pay cycles. So if some people get paid weekly, some people get paid bi-weekly, maybe some people are once a month, the system can accommodate those various cycles. Last, but arguably most important, is compliance and reporting. So here's a sneak peek of what some of the reports could look like on Trade. Trade does handle all quarterly and annual tax filings, and so we will handle those withdrawals after every payroll run and then submit the remittance to different state funds. We do offer certified payroll reports if that is ever necessary, and then also have full capability to support workers' comp audits, and of course, any type of custom reporting needed for each and every company, we're able to generate that for you. Awesome. If you have existing accounting and ERP systems, you shouldn't feel the need or the urgency to switch off of those. Trade is really powering labor accounting, and we are able to ingest and sync our data into existing ERP systems. So if any of these logos look familiar, then you're in the right hands. We have seen pretty unbelievable traction across the country. Some of these logos may seem familiar. We have several HVAC companies here in New York that are, growing rapidly using our back office automation, right? They're able to scale their back office, so their field teams, right, the tech teams, without having to increase the overhead of the back office. In general, and this is a pretty unbelievable stat, but field teams have increased by 265% since joining Trade. while their back office has either stayed flat or decreased in size. And so that is really the power of this type of automation. You can more than double your techs and the amount of people servicing and doing work in the field while not incurring additional overhead. We recognize the cost of construction has never been higher. Margins are impossible, and you do need to do whatever you can to find those efficiencies at scale. Perfect. I'll highlight one really cool case study here. Tompkins Excavating, they are a company out of New York. Previously, payroll took over 12 hours to run, pretty unbelievable. Within trade, they're processing payroll in an hour or less, which is, week over week astounding for them. Their weekly and monthly reporting, 401k, workers' comp, preparing for audits, taxes was around 8 hours, and they're now completing and pulling all reports in about 30 minutes. And then similar to the stat I just said, they've seen a 40% job site and worker growth, keeping the back office headcount flat. So talk about efficiencies gained. You can really expect guaranteed back office success with trade, right? Whether it's like, I was talking to one payroll admin this morning and she was like, hey, I'm going to have to call you back. Wednesdays are my payroll day. So she was locking in for 8 hours where I wasn't going to be able to have a conversation with her. On trade, our average time to run payroll is 13 minutes and 46 seconds, right? So when people are previously spending an entire workday doing something and that can shorten down to about 10 minutes, it's pretty unbelievable how much else you can achieve that week. So I know we have a lot of like QR codes to schedule a demo. So from here, I will switch into a live walkthrough of the platform. I know that pictures and moving GIFs are fun, but it's better to see the platform in action. Cool.
Yeah, that is so incredible. I mean, I have a bunch of notes that I've taken here on my desk with some questions and stuff. But honestly, you answered so many of them. I wanted to know how much time is being saved. I wanted to know how much like money, like all those resources, bandwidth, and you hit some really amazing metrics, right? So you're saying um the back office stays flat or gets smaller as there's 200% growth in the field, which is insane. Streamlining 50 times less time that it takes, 8 hours to 13 minutes. That's crazy. And just the fact that at scale, if we're trying to if we're a family owned HVAC business trying to compete with the private equity backed shops that are in our marketplaces, we need every competitive advantage that we can get, right? So this is just incredible content, and I'd really urge everyone on this call to scan that QR code and at least have a conversation with Anna and her team, because this is absolutely game changing here. I don't know if I even like perceived the just gravity of this situation. So I'm super pumped to hear all this, and I'm looking forward to getting into your presentation of the platform too.
Yeah, ready to go.
Cool.
Awesome. So welcome to the back office operating system. I'm going to focus here today and less on the manager and tech platforms. If you'd like to go deeper on those systems, more than happy to set up, but this should carry us through to the Q&A session. So this is the back office operating system designed for everybody in the back office with varying permissions. So in this
quickly, sorry to interrupt, Anna. I have a bunch of questions that I've written down. And so I urge everybody to actually, if they have questions throughout this whole process, just go ahead and post them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. But sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, not at all. Great. So in this top section here, this is your time sensitive notification center. So this is really going to call out to the business anything that could put the team in a position of non-compliance. So running payroll on time, getting people's I-9s in place and signed in that 72-hour window post onboarding, sending out schedules for the week, or preparing for the next tax filing, right? Down below here are monthly payroll insights that That dotted line is going to be that projected number. The solid line is going to be what actually hit the books. So this is the first instance here where you can see, how is the business doing? Did we land our numbers? Did we burn too hot? Do we need to pull back in the months ahead to make up for it? And then off to the right is a heat map of active jobs. So you can tap in to see a very quick high-level summary of hours worked, total wages, and anybody that's interacted with the site. But if you click deeper into the project, you'll see full project accounting. So when you tap down here under shifts, you're going to see the activity that's being tracked by our field software, that iPad or like tablet view. So that tablet is going to capture anyone that was there, their specific hours, any job titles that they had, and any specific task codes that they did, or like an activity code. This is going to scope what they were supposed to make that day, right? Because depending on where you are, what you're doing, your rates can change. And next, people can report out on the equipment and materials used on site. And so this allows teams to see a true cost summary of the day and really assess how they're burning against their estimates. You can also expand this view into a multiple day view. So you can expand this back a month to say, I want to see all the activity that happened on this site from July 28th to October 15th and see anybody that has come in and out and touched this project. So all of that kind of key sensitive real-time cost summary data is then used to outline the different budgeting numbers along the top. So you're able to see your overall progress, how many hours have been worked against what was budgeted, and so on and so forth. This is to really keep teams honest. And then off to the side here, this is where you can create your crews. You can assign certain activity codes, select project rates. I'm not sure if anyone here is dabbling in prevailing wage work, but if you are, this is really, really important, right? If a certain kind of job has a prevailing wage, then the system of trade will override a default rate. Let's say it's $52, and they will override to a prevailing wage to make sure the prevailing wage of 72 is upheld on this project. So trade is automatically doing those wage calculations based on geolocation of projects. And then last but not least is worker overrides. You can consider this like a per diem. Maybe a technician is driving an extra hour for a certain job and you're going to give them a certain stipend for travel. Something like that would be a job-specific worker override, and that would be programmed in here.
I know a lot of companies travel to, say, like Service World Expo or the Epic conference, and they take 5-6 people with them. It can handle kind of per diem in that respect too, and like reimbursements and stuff for people that are out traveling.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would follow the normal reimbursement flows through the mobile app, because those are like one-off. That's like a business trip. But auto reimbursements, a perfect tee up right here, is the concept of like every month it's a recurring reimbursement, right? So, or like every week, right? So that would be something that we've made more automated.
Very cool. We have a question
Yeah.
from Christopher. How do you handle people that don't clock in or out, causing huge variances of hours worked? And I bet kind of piggybacks off my question is like, how does this kind of software plug into another field management software like Breezy or Service Titan or
Yep.
Housecall Pro
Yep.
to like kind of pull that stuff in?
Yeah, so the clock in flow is not mandatory. We have a very strong policy that we like to meet our contractors and our companies and HVAC businesses where they are, right? So if clocking in and clocking out isn't the use case, and everyone just makes an 8-hour day with certain exceptions, then that's how trade can work. I'm kind of showing you the full picture, right? Where data is flowing in from the field into the payroll tables. There's live reviews and error catching. But ultimately, to partner with a Breezy, we can ingest that kind of data. So that just comes down to like integrations and setting that up.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. Other things here is you can store project documents and set certain visibility to the field. So you can basically say you can upload, whether it's like maybe it's not a blueprint, but the drawings, designs, or anything from like a change order or lien waiver, right? And you can select which of the people in the field can see certain documents. So people shouldn't be able to see everything, but you can select that kind of visibility. Great. So next up, I'll jump into people. So this is where you would manage your workforce, both people in the field and in the back office. Onboarding is really, really simple. I kind of alluded to this before, but all we really need is first name, last name, email, phone number, employment type down here, and how they're going to be paid, hourly or salary, right? And from there, the worker fills out the rest. They go through a digital I-9, tax and bank account verification on their phone, and it flows from there. Once they are completely set up, you'll see that like they'll move into setup complete, pending approval, or who's active, or it will let you know whose payments are currently blocked. Like what kind of information do we need to unblock this person? From there, you'll get very detailed information about each employee. So you can jump into employment to see job title history, rate changes. You can set up benefits and deductions, child support, auto reimbursements, time off policies, you name it. This is a true HR portal. And then really cool under time tracking, you're able to actually see someone's year-to-date activity. So you can see where they've been active, what kind of work they completed, and any kind of performance notes associated.
Anna, I have a quick question. So, in HVAC, we have the comfort advisor role or the salesperson. How does trade account for like performance-based pay?
Yeah, so that you can always like power commissions within the platform. So when you're in the payroll table, and this is jumping ahead, but I think it's worth it to address. When you head into an open payroll period, so I'm going to jump into 9/25 to 10/1, what you're going to see here is hourly and salaried workers in the same system. If an hourly worker who's commission based is making an other earning, right, a bonus, a commission, or severance, you can add it right in line. So we'll say they're making a commission of $1,000, and then what should we say? Performance payout, and then we would save that into this person's weekly payout. And so now you can see this person's employee gross is $1,000.
Cool.
So
I like
adding
that.
same line reimbursements is so, so easy. The same thing here is reimbursements. This would be one-time non-taxable, right? So this is different than that auto reimbursement, which would be recurring. Cool. Other cool features that I'll quickly flip through here. You can use scheduling and dispatch, or you can choose to not. And this is where you can assign both people and equipment out into the field. There's also approval flows, where teams can approve those reimbursements, time off requests, any certifications that are coming through the platform. And then one of my personal favorites is our broadcast messaging. So now teams can send blasts to one person, 10 people, the entire company, regarding just about anything. So anything business critical can be addressed through broadcast messaging. Great. So heading back into payroll, I know we were just here, but it's worth double clicking. I know that during the slideshow, I talked about off-cycle payroll runs. These are really key in construction, especially as we think about bonuses, commissions, voids, corrections, and of course, layoffs. And so we have a really simple layoff flow, which does come into play more often than I'd like it to, but that is the nature of this industry. And so that is a primary flow there, and then all open payroll periods could be seen down below. Trade will file your quarterly and annual tax filings, and we will let you know what needs fixing, what needs review, and when your kind of deadlines are. And so we are really a compliance agent here for you, and it's not a black box. As we are withholding tax information and doing those payments, you'll have full visibility. If you generate a quick report, you'll be able to see everything that we have withheld and remitted out.
Anna, does this eliminate the need for an accountant, or how
You
do
should,
you
yeah.
see people like who's operating this inside of the shop? Do you say
Yeah, a
usually?
lot of times people are running, especially if you're on like a Sage 300 or some of the old school like accounting systems,
I
people are
think
running taxes. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say I think like QuickBooks Desktop
Yeah,
is really
yeah.
popular in the
Exactly. So like most people there are running taxes in-house. So they're basically cutting checks and sending checks to each of these agencies at every quarter or annually, right? You always need a bookkeeper to do bookkeeping and close out the books at the end of the year, but from these quarterly payouts, that's what trade handles.
Got it. Yeah, it was just that was my question. I looked up at the chat and Christopher had almost the exact same question at the exact same time. So great
Good.
minds, Chris.
Love it. Awesome. So right into accounting, perfect segue again, CJ. Trade will mirror your accounting system. And so whatever your general ledger is in accounting will appear here. And that's because all of the data that we're collapsing into payroll journals need to follow the same mapping and coding as exists in your general ledger. So when you move the information over there, it's a perfect fit. This is something that my team actually sets up for you. You're not responsible for building out this mapping. We do it so that the data flows back and forth pretty seamlessly. Reports. So we have a handful of reports that we see are relevant pretty much across all business types. If something on this list doesn't speak to you, no problem. You can always come in and build your own templates. So I think as a founder a few years ago, I thought I could truly build like the one size fits all for this industry. Joke's on me. What I can do is build the tools for you to build what you need, right? So now you can basically drag and drop columns, remove columns, add columns, group in different ways, and generate templates that you can reuse again and again. Cool. Same thing goes for forms. If you have custom onboarding forms or field notes that you want to capture or safety policies that you need signatures on, you can build out any type of custom form on Trade. And then last, but absolutely the most important is configurations. So configurations is where we will set up any activity codes, any equipment, materials, workers' comp rates, integrations to accounting and project management, et cetera, benefits. And this is what my team will basically handhold with during the integration process to make sure you're completely set up for success on Trade.
Can you
And that's
talk a
about
little bit
it.
about what like that configuration process is, or like the, ramp up, like, or even the
Yeah.
training? Like how does
Yeah.
the trade team and the, business owner work together? How long does that process usually take?
I spook people out when I say this, but on average, we aim for a 3-week process. So we like to go from contract signature to first payroll run in about 21 days. It
I,
sounds fast. It's unheard of in this industry. I think like the ADP standard is like 3 months. We don't operate like that, right? We do the full migration in-house. When you sign a contract, we will basically get access into your current systems and start that data migration onto Trade. While we're doing that, we're training the back office. We're training any technicians, right? We're getting in front of everyone. So on that first week when time tracking or payroll starts, the engine starts flowing. We move quickly. That week, our customers get our undivided attention. We don't overload ourselves so that, we can guarantee a very successful launch.
That's incredible. I think, with this industry specifically, incumbent kind of big solutions often win just because they're trusted. But, me coming from the tech and startup space, and you obviously as well, and just what Breezy's trying to accomplish, like we're not confined by these really cumbersome processes or the
Yeah,
red tape or the politics. Like in the startup space, in the tech space, it's all about velocity and like
correct.
implementing solutions as quickly as possible. So I
Correct.
appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Right on. Well, is that the end of your demo?
That's it. Unless you guys want to
Awesome.
click back through, I'll keep it open in case there are specific questions around the live environment.
Okay. And feel free to just leave that up. You don't need to take it down, but I would
Okay.
like to get into a little bit of a Q&A session. I have a question that was pre-submitted from a contractor during our marketing. For a contractor that has grown from say 2 million to 5 million in annual revenue, what are kind of those first back office processes that you typically see breaking down?
Yeah.
And how does trade really help bring sustainability and stability to that
Yeah.
stage?
A jump from 2 to 5 million in revenue often indicates pretty significant team growth. And so you're going to see breakage first within HR processes. HR today is every time you onboard a worker, you're printing out 100 pages of onboarding documents. You're then chasing them for their different certifications and licenses, and you're going back and forth, and then you're basically you know faxing everything back into the system and filing it away. And you're looking at like 7 to 10 hours of work, right? For a single worker. And so going from like 2 to 5 million and likely doubling your field count is going to completely inundate the HR teams, right? And so trades automation, our onboarding per person is 7 minutes or less. And that's an actual
Wow.
stat, right? And so that's really where like the efficiencies of trade come into play for growing companies. And we've seen that explosive growth already. We had a company on Friday say like, hey, we want a big project for Monday morning at 6 a.m. If we were on our previous company, we wouldn't have been able to onboard 40 people before Monday, but we got them up and running in 30 minutes.
Wow.
The work started at 6 a.m. on Monday. They were all there. It all works. And like they were like, if we were on our old software, that we would have had to turn down the work. Right. And so
Right.
trade is enabling teams to like go bigger, win bigger, take on more than they ever thought they could, while not completely destroying the back office team, right, in the process.
Yeah, that's awesome. Chris, you're doing it again, dude. Does trade replace programs like QuickBooks, or can it operate fully without them? I was gonna ask next, how does like the QuickBooks transition process work?
Yeah.
Because everybody that I talk to, and especially people that we integrate into Breezy, they want to maintain that QuickBooks process, tongue
Yeah.
twister. But like, is there a better solution inside of trade, and like what does that kind of transition look like?
I'd need to know a bit more to speak with absolute certainty, but in general, QuickBooks accounting stays in place. It's everything else that gets uprooted, right? So we're uprooting HR, field management, payroll, reporting, compliance, and then all of the data that trade is storing is basically ported into QuickBooks accounting. So for today, QuickBooks stays. For tomorrow, who knows?
For sure. um I think a big thing that stuck out to me as we were getting to know each other and talking about you coming onto the show is that there's a high turnover rate in the
Yeah.
trades,
Yeah.
HVAC specifically. And I feel like super high turnover at the, below 1 million in annual revenue to maybe 2 million in annual revenue. And I think um, I'd like to hear your perspective on, how trade, or like just better payroll and compliance in general, like the
Yeah.
systems, can improve like employee morale or turnover, or just, build a culture that, people feel taken care of in.
Well, I think a lot of times the worker doesn't necessarily get their needs met, right? Like what they're looking for is their paycheck when they need it. They're looking
Right.
for their documents. They're looking for communication from the back office. They're looking for guaranteed work. And so when you start to see attrition and people jumping around, it's likely because there's some sort of instability with the relationship to the back office. And so trade doesn't like completely prevent this from happening. Of course, things happen where people are going to churn, but I think trade's mobile tools really open the lines of communication between the field and the back office, right? For the first time ever, workers don't have to call in to say, hey, how many PTO days do I have? They can just look at their accruals on their app and then submit 3 days off, right?
Right.
They don't have to hound the back office for tax documents. They have them at their fingertips. They don't have to be like, where am I going on Monday? Their schedules are loaded into the app and they're getting reminders. And so there's this feeling of like the worker is a part of this equation just as much as the back office is. And that's designed intentionally so, right? Like we've created a harmony here that hasn't previously existed. And I think that's part of our success today.
Yeah, that's incredible. I hadn't really thought of that. And something that you said before, that was interesting to me, was kind of those push notifications that you can send out to everybody on the team.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and like what the use case might be for something like that?
Yeah, so it really depends on like what kind of messaging you want to send, right? And I know Breezy does a lot of like field comms, but like, if people's shifts are changing, right, they'll get notified. If there's a weather advisory, people will get notified. If teams want to send a custom message, use the broadcast and say whatever you want, right? Whether it's like, hey, holiday party's coming up or Halloween's coming up, we're doing a company outing, right? Use it how you want. Thank your employees on Thanksgiving. Who knows, right?
Sure.
What we saw over the summer, there were some crazy heat waves in New York. And a lot of the broadcast messaging was like, "We love you guys. Like, please don't go into like a heat stroke, right? Like, please drink
Right.
water. Bring wet towels. Like, stay hydrated."
Cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. And just again, if anybody has any questions right now, please type them into the chat. I have one more question.
Yeah,
For anybody that's really looking to, adopt trade after today, like how does the onboarding process work? Like,
yeah,
what's the first place you kind of start?
yeah,
And then maybe some best practices that you've seen for
totally.
contractors that have actually implemented.
So first is we'd get on a call and I'd really learn the business, right? Like we don't just walk in blindly and we don't sell this software lightly. We really want to make sure it's the right fit for each business. And so, and that's kind of, you can see that in our retention numbers, right? Like we go in so thoughtfully up front and as a result, people stay for a very long time. And so we would meet and I would understand the business and then we would come up with an action plan, right? Which parts of trade do you want to use? Which parts are maybe not relevant today, but could be in 6 months and we can work on a rollout plan. And then we'll sign contracts and we'll start migrating your data, right? We will do, if we're mid-year, we will do a year-to-date payroll migration so that you get one W-4 at the end of the year. Otherwise, we'll start at the top of the year or fresh on a quarter, but that doesn't really matter. We can really start any day of the week. And then from there, we'll roll out some onboardings and some trainings and get everyone really, really excited about this new software coming into play.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions that I had. It looks like the chat is kind of quieted down a bit. Is
Okay.
there any kind of final thoughts you want to leave anyone with today?
No, listen, this is a labor of love. We've built this for people we really care about and it's a dream and a privilege to get to do what we do. So I'd be very excited to learn about each of your businesses and really sit down and see how we can help. So we're here to do good. We're here to do the right thing. We're here to grow these businesses one by one.
Very nice. One more question came in.
Yeah.
Christopher asked, what's the typical contract length? Is it available month to month, or do you look for like a longer term commitment?
We look for a 12-month commitment upfront, but that's something that, Christopher, you and I can talk about.
It feels like something like this is meant to be, a holistic solution and kind of a culture shift. So, Christopher, it probably would be like best to kind of invest the time and resources into really integrating it into your operations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
people
sure.
don't like payroll migrations are not the most fun, right? And so it's like you don't want to do it more than once a year. And frankly, like the customers we have, we haven't turned a customer. So like people stay. And that's because our customer support is top notch and we're always there to help.
That's very awesome. Well, Anna, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course.
Again, the solutions that you presented today just blew me away. Like I wasn't even prepared for them. So I'm happy I got to see all that demo kind of value, and I'm happy our users did too. And I appreciate your time and what you're doing for the industry. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. So fun. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely. So I'm going to leave you guys with an opportunity to sign up for the next show next week. It is going to be with Danielle Werner from Upskilled, and she's going to teach you how to build an HVAC training dashboard that really delivers KPIs that you can use to drive technician growth. If you want some more information about how Breezy or Trade can help you grow, just drop a line in the chat. Thank you.